The album that Respect was on, Respect, Ain't No Way, the songs that were on that album, those musicians from Muscle Shoals, they were a big part of developing that sound and those songs with Aretha Franklin.
Hey, John.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Actually, my voice is a little raspy because I'm Cuban American. I've been at a bunch of SOS Cuba protests all week chanting, so excuse the voice.
Hey, no problem, no problem. Let me just get this audio so that it's coming through my headphones so I can hear you a bit better.
No problem, man.
That way you don't have to shout at me.
Cool. Well, I'm Cuban, so I shout like naturally.
Oh, great.
Dude, so first of all, thanks for doing this interview. I know you had a part in Respect that I wanted to ask you about. I also wanted to ask you about what it's like being an actor in Atlanta, because it's such a growing production hub, and I'd like to speak to more people out there about that. So first of all, before we get into Respect in Atlanta, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, John Giorgio. I'm from Texas, originally South Texas, born and raised. I'm a new father. I've got a 10-month-old now and an 11-year-old stepdaughter, and I'm exhausted most of the time. I'm a stay-at-home dad. My partner works from home, and so she works about 8 hours a day, and I work about 8 hours a day with the kids. And I'm a musician. Started playing guitar and singing when I was about 14 in a metal band. Nice. And so my trajectory kind of landed right in the right spot with how I grew up, what I grew up doing, and all of my passions kind of combined into one at this point in my life. So that's who I am. I went to Baylor University for a few years, and then I went to Texas State University for a few years and studied philosophy. Nice. That's I don't really know what else to say about me.
No, that's a lot, man. Congrats on being a father. That's definitely a big deal, and that's also a big job. So congrats on that. So tell us a little bit about your part in Respect and a little bit about the movie and how it and what it means to Atlanta.
Sure. So I play Chips Moman in the movie. And if you know, Chips Moman was the founder of American Sound Studios in Memphis. I believe it was in Memphis. He recorded albums for Elvis Presley and, great names. He also recorded lots of guitar at Muscle Shoals with the Swampers. And so that's who I play in Respect. We got to get together and with the entire band and rehearse our music. We played live during all of the shooting, and it was an amazing experience. Being in a studio setting that resembled Muscle Shoals back in Aretha Franklin's day. It was incredible to see the work that was put into building the sets and the wardrobe. My God, the wardrobe is gorgeous. The sets were gorgeous. The actors were all very professional, very down to earth, and all, top tier musicians, top tier actors. So I was in good company. I was definitely in good company. Mark Maron playing Jerry Wexler, and Marlon Wayans playing Aretha Franklin's husband at the time, and of course Jennifer Hudson. It really was a dream come true to be standing amongst the greats.
Did you now you got to sing in it, right? I'm assuming they cast you because you're also a really good singer.
I am a singer. Yes. No, I didn't get to sing in it. No, I play guitar actually in the film. I'm one of Aretha Franklin's session musicians. So Chips Moman and Jimmy Johnson and David Hood and Spooner Oldman, the whole gang, they are who helped develop the music for Aretha Franklin's album. I'm blanking on what it's called, but the album that Respect was on, Respect, Ain't No Way, the songs that were on that album, those musicians from Muscle Shoals, they were a big part of developing that sound and those songs with Aretha Franklin. So I got to play the guitar. I got to play a nice little Telecaster and actually play. You see some movies where musicians are they're miming playing their instrument, kind of like if you remember Crossroads, years back, Ralph Macchio was a guitar player, and he goes to the crossroads to make a deal with the devil, right? And Ralph Macchio, I think Ry Coder was the guitar player who dubbed over him, but he tried his best to mimic the moves of a guitar player and did a very good job. Most people wouldn't be able to tell that he wasn't actually playing, but we actually got to play our instruments. We actually got to play with Jennifer Hudson through the entire filming process. So I did play guitar. My other bandmates, they also played their instruments, and they're all world-class musicians. So huge. That's huge for a biopic in a movie where music is the core.
Now, did you audition for this role?
I did.
In Atlanta?
In Atlanta, yes. I auditioned for the show in Atlanta through RPM Casting and my agents, Houghton Talent, who they've done a wonderful job representing me thus far. And yes, I auditioned with the musical director, the music producer, and the director and the casting director all in the same room. They had instruments set up for the musicians to come in and play. I did a self-tape for them. I played the bass. My original audition was for the bass player to audition for Tommy Cogbill. And I went to actually, funny story. I was so stressed out about the audition because moving from Texas to Atlanta, I brought 0 instruments with me, believe it or not. And I didn't have a bass, and I had very little friends who I knew in Atlanta at the time who could lend me a bass. And so I went to Guitar Center. I told my fiance, I told her, I don't think I'm going to do this. I went to Guitar Center. I was trying to tape my audition, in a loud, noisy Guitar Center. I walked out of there and was like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to pass on it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And she looked at me and was like, turn around. We're going back in there. They've got to have a room in there somewhere for you to get to yourself and play. So we went in, and thanks to her, we got a little practice room that they had there. I got a bass, and she filmed me on my phone. I think I might have played Respect, but I think I might have played Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison. And I did it. I thought, okay, well, nothing's going to come of this. I didn't have such long hair at the time, but I don't know that I was the look. I didn't know if I was the right look for Chip's Moment or Tommy Cogbill, because both of them, when you look at them, they didn't have all this hair, and I know movie magic, you can do a lot with movie magic, but I was a little worried, and I was, I wasn't very hopeful because the tape didn't look great. It was shot on a phone, et cetera, et cetera. So, it takes, maybe a few weeks, maybe a month before I actually heard back from casting. And I heard back, and then I went in for an in-person callback with the producers and directors, and they were so lovely.
Nice.
They were world-class, Tony nominated director, Grammy winning music producers, and I'm sitting in a room with these, bigwigs, and I'm just playing the bass. And that's what I did. I borrowed a bass from one of my fiance's friends, and it was this hot pink hot pink Fender, I think a jazz bass or something. But yeah, I walked in there, no case, no nothing, just with a hot pink bass guitar in my hand in a waiting room full of musicians. They all had cases. They all had, they all looked very professional. I walked in there with this hot pink bass, played my part. He told me to say some lines. I told him a story about me when I was a kid and how I was in class watching a video of some kids from another class who had did a project, a science project, where they wrote a song, a cover song for their science class. I saw that and immediately that's what I want to do. I want to be those guys' friends. I want to play in a band. So I went home and told my dad, "Hey, Dad, these guys are doing this really awesome thing. I want to be a part of it." So skip a few weeks down the line, I make friends with these guys. We have our first day of band practice. My dad drives me over to the drummer's house, and he pulls up in his work van. He stops, puts it in park, and he starts getting out of the car. And I say, "Whoa, what are you doing?" A teenagers, how they feel sometimes about their parents getting around their friends. This might be a little embarrassing, Well, I'm like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, come on, we're going to go and see these guys, right?" So we get out the car, and he immediately goes up to the drummer's father, shakes his hand, hugs him. And lo and behold, the drummer's father and my dad were in a band when they were in high school. And we had no idea.
Yeah.
It was kismet.
It
was kismet. I mean, it was fate. We were meant to be friends. We were meant to be in a band. And so those guys were my life. They've been my lifelong friends, ever since. So yeah, that was the story I told them. I walked out of there, didn't know if I was going to get the part. A few weeks later, I heard back, and a few weeks after that, in December, we were rehearsing, and then we started shooting in January. And to tell you, it was amazing. Yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you a little bit about working in Atlanta. I know that I got connected, via some of the people that I'm working with at Galif. Kenneth Trujillo threw out your name and said that we could cover you on LATV. I know I asked you about Galfa, and you said you're not too involved with them, but are you a member of Galfa?
I'm not, actually. Okay. I'm not. I was surprised when you had emailed me, because I
think somebody mentioned that.
That's okay. I wish I would have known more about it beforehand, because I mean, as a Latino, I would have loved to have been a part or be a part of.
Well, you will now. So, okay, cool. So is there a big Latino community in Atlanta that you don't realize? Okay.
Oh yeah. Huge Latino community. And you don't realize it because, Atlanta being as big as it is, you don't realize the melting pot that it is. You have people from all over. You have people from Mexico. You have people from Cuba. You have people from Puerto Rico. You have Latinos from everywhere, right? And so there is a big community here. And when I came to Atlanta, I at first didn't feel like there was going to be much of a community for me. But as time went on, and I got to know people, and I got to experience different sets, and I got to work with different people, I started to slowly realize that we're out here. We are out here, and we're making waves. One of the biggest studios actually now, it used to be owned by Tyler Perry. Before he opened Tyler Perry Studios, he owned a studio, and once he opened Tyler Perry Studios, he sold it, and it's Latino-owned studio, one of the biggest studios, out here there is a community out here, and it's great. It's great.
That's amazing. And so tell me a little bit about, so there's more of a Latino community there than most people realize. And there's also someone who lives here in LA, obviously Hollywood is thought of as a production hub, in New York as well. Talk to me about the Atlanta film scene. Obviously you were just in a major, you guys shot Respect in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about being a performer in Atlanta and how it's growing as a production hub.
So being a performer in Atlanta, I mean, you get more opportunities than you would in places like where I'm from. I'm from a little town in Texas called Harlingen. And the way that I like to describe it is, if you look at Texas, and Texas like this, I'm down here. I mean, this is Mexico here. I'm right here. So I grew up on a border town. It's not a hub, down there. Moving to Atlanta, the number of auditions that I get and the number of callbacks that I get, it's far more surmounting than I would be getting in that area. I will say that now in this new digital age that we're living in post-COVID, everything has become very digital. So, I've done Zoom auditions. Most of my auditions are self-tape. Respect wasn't a self-tape audition. The first half of it was, but the callback was in person. So being in Atlanta, I have more access as an artist, as talent, to big studios here. It's like living in LA, it's going to be hard to find a job if you're from a small town in Texas. It's going to be hard to find a job with a big studio in LA if you're not living in LA and you don't have the access to those places. One of the things that's great about living in Atlanta as an artist is that there's so much art to consume, and there's so many creatives out here that you can make a movie with your neighbor, because your neighbor is making movies, and there's so much talent here that, being where I'm from, growing up with a small group of friends that were very talented, outside of that, let's just say that there's a plethora of talent in Atlanta, and it's growing so fast. It's growing so quickly. It's hard to keep up with. There's major studios that are coming out here. There's major studios that are putting offices here because of how fast Atlanta is growing. And I feel like I came to Atlanta at a point where Atlanta was just starting to take off. It was just getting off the ground, so I was very fortunate to be able to get in on the ground floor, I guess you could say. Yeah. So living in Atlanta as an artist, it's been an amazing experience, just for the sole fact that there's so much talent. There's so many productions that are happening here. So, if I get booked for something, I got to drive 20 minutes and I'm at the studio, and I come back home and I don't have to fly anywhere. I don't have to leave my family. And, family's very important to me. So being away from them is hard. I've booked things in North Carolina. I've booked things in Tennessee, out of Atlanta. And that's the hardest part is being away from my family. So being in a hub like Atlanta, it's very beneficial if you're an artist. Very, very beneficial.
Awesome. Before I let you go, is there anything else you want to tell us about? Anything that you're working on? Anything coming up in the near future?
Well, I don't know that I can speak about a lot of things since they're not out yet. Next summer, DMZ will be coming out on HBO Max. That's starring Rosario Dawson and directed by Ava DuVernay. So that's going to be a good one. Wow. Hightown is going to be coming out. That's on Showtime, I believe, and that's going to be coming out this November. So you can see me on both of those next year and later this year. And you can check my website out, whoisjohngiorgio.com, and you can get all my information on there, see all my short films, all my feature films that I've shot, wrote, directed, anything that I've been in, it's all going to be up there. Follow me on Instagram, whoisjohngiorgio. Yeah, that's what I've got to say.
John, thanks for joining us. I think you're the busiest stay-at-home dad, in the Georgia area, probably, maybe the United States. But man, thanks for joining us, dude. We'll put this up next week, and can't wait to see Respect, and can't wait to see your partner Respect.
Hey, thanks. August 13th.
Thanks a lot, man. Take it easy.